So, welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Alex.
It's, I suppose, my fourth week in this journey. Well, our fourth week in this journey.
It is, yeah.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Absolute pleasure.
I wanted to ask you, what would you say to anybody that has that kind of want and desire to give up smoking or lose weight or whatever it might be? What would you say to them?
That's a good question, Alex. When it comes to giving up smoking, it's slightly different to weight loss. And when it's smoking, I always ask one question first, and you'll remember it. I say, why now? What is it about now that makes you want to quit? Because there has to be one overriding factor. Because if someone says to me, and I have turned people away, I'm getting my ear chewed, my other half is having a go at me, I think I ought to. That's probably not really a good enough reason. You have to want to do it from within. You have to want to. That's why I say, why now? With weight loss, of course, it's a slightly different issue. And there are many different layers that have to be peeled away to work out why somebody actually wants to change the way they think about food, the way they feel about it, and the way they behave around it. Because this is all about thoughts, feelings and behaviours, as you know, because we've gone through that each session. So, as I say, with smoking, it's very much, why now? And then we drill down to the real core, the nub of that.
Well, I've experienced it firsthand, so...
You have indeed.
Successfully, might I add, too, which has been, as I said before in previous updates, it is life-changing, because, you've made me realise that smoking there's no benefit to my life to smoking. In fact, all it does is holds me back and stops me doing things, because I've had a kind of chain reaction of events that's happened since giving up smoking. I've gone back to my football, so my fitness is slowly improving, because I've not been playing football for a long time. On top of that, my sleep has got better because I'm exercising again. So the knock-on effect that's happened since our chats and the service that you've given me has been life-changing and really positive.
I'm delighted for you.
I'd like to say thank you for that, and I suppose really kind of explain that there are so many people out there that could consider your service that are in a very similar position to me, that just need to make that first step. So what happens with an individual if they are interested? What happens? How does the process start with you?
It starts usually, I get a phone call or a text to say, what do you offer? How can you help me give up smoking? And then I encourage someone to have a phone call, because it's so much easier than just swapping messages. But then I ask that question, why now? And then the process that we follow is really, as you've experienced firsthand, it's actually a logical process that I follow. And I have various different steps that we need to go through in order for you to become a natural non-smoker. And you may recall I use the word natural quite a lot, because there are fears. Some people have fears that by giving up smoking they're going to put on weight, for instance. And I would say, well, if you take cigarettes out of your life completely, where they have no place whatsoever, there's nothing to replace. There's nothing missing. You don't want to replace one habit with another. So the process would be that we go through various stages whereby we look at, if you recall, we actually drew a picture of a day and where cigarettes fitted in during the day, so that you can see for yourself that it's actually a habit. And it's a habit that people get into, and then it's so habitual. Some people don't realise how many they smoke a day. They might come to me and say, I smoke about 10, 15, so I'm thinking, maybe 25, 30. And when you actually draw them out and you see all these cigarettes that we draw in this circle of the day, like a clock, then it's that moment when the sort of realisation that, gosh, I do seem to smoke an awful lot of cigarettes out of habit. And then of course we look at The treat. Oh, I treat myself after a meal. So I would ask someone, do you remember your first cigarette? Yeah, I coughed my lungs up. Okay, so if we can reframe the way you think of a treat, would you consider that it's a treat to actually go back to that first cigarette that you had? Maybe not. So it's just a process of thinking really deeply as to how and why cigarettes became a habit in the first place. I hope that answers your question.
Well, I suppose it does, because I can echo it
because you remember
I went through that service.
Yeah, you did.
And I suppose, for anyone watching, this video of us having a chat, I'd just like to say to them that it is so personal, because everybody's circumstance, relationship with smoking is going to be entirely different from the next
totally.
person. And I suppose what I feel from you is that you really understood my relationship with smoking. You got to know how, I think, what my drivers to give up are, etc. And we went through, very kind of detailed, I suppose, synopsis, if you like, of me, really. And you kind of offered me that service where, it's completely personal, which I suppose, was brilliant.
It is entirely bespoke. Each session is completely different,
sure.
According to the individual. The processes are the same, but the way in which they're carried out is completely different. It has to be personal.
Sure. So hypnotism is at times considered as people are sceptical about it.
Absolutely.
What would you say to those people?
I would say that stage hypnosis and hypnosis within hypnotherapy are two completely different ends of the spectrum. Stage hypnosis is for entertainment purposes. Hypnotherapy is for well-being. So the type of hypnotism, as you put it, or the hypnosis, it's relaxation. It's deep relaxation, whereby you are in full control at all times. You could get up and walk out of the room at any point, but it's a question of just being able to slow down your mind. So you imagine your mind is racing all the time, as it does in daily life, and it's just an opportunity to slow down the conscious mind so that the subconscious mind can be a little more open, more receptive to suggestions. So it's a natural relaxation process. If you imagine that point just before you fall asleep at night, when you just feel completely relaxed and your mind starts to just calm, it's just like that. And it's something that you can induce yourself with practice quite easily.
Okay, and I suppose lastly, how are you kind of different from maybe other hypnotists? What makes your service unique? What
makes Chris Chilton hypnotherapy unique? That's a fine question. I would say that the approach I use, because everything is bespoke, is different to many others out there, and there are some very good hypnotherapists in the area. But what I do, I have a number of techniques up my sleeve that I can use. I don't just use suggestion therapy. I may use what we call regression therapy. I may use something called parts therapy. I've actually got 33 different methods up my sleeve, metaphorically speaking, that I can use to help an individual. So quite frankly, when someone comes in for a session, for a consultation, they may have said one thing but come in with another, and I very much go with it at that point. I cannot prepare too much for something because I just don't know where their mind's going to go, and I don't know whether other things are going to come out. May I ask you a question?
Please.
When you became a natural non-smoker, where did it differ, the process in your own thoughts, between the method that you tried before to quit smoking and now?
That's a great question, because it's entirely different. When I gave up last, or tried to give up last time, which lasted a period of 6 months, I was replacing a habit with a habit using tablets. I moved on to the vape, and in some ways I was still aiding myself with nicotine, which is obviously a powerful drug, but you made me realise I'm not actually addicted to smoking. It's a habit, and I just need to break that cycle. You made me realise that people that don't smoke don't have anything missing as such. They don't have to go get a replacement for what they feel is missing. And
Absolutely.
you made me realise that that is the case, which is quite powerful. So I've used my mind, and well, as we know, the mind is a powerful thing, and
sure
you've
is.
helped me unlock that potential. So that's the difference for me. So I would like to say thank you again.
It's been an absolute pleasure.